Hey BookTube! I've got this huge stack of books here, and this stack is my top 10 books of 2025. Technically, there are more than 10 books in this stack. I decided to count series as just one book because otherwise I physically wouldn't have been able to narrow it down to 10. I also do have one honorable mention book on here, so technically there's more than 10, but we are just going to get right into it. So, my honorable mention book for this year is What Fury Brings by Trisha Levenseller. This book was so fun, but it also did have good commentary about misogyny and patriarchal society. This book really did have a fantastic blend of interesting world building and characters, some fun, spicy scenes, while also being socially and politically relevant. So this book would be my honorable mention number 11 spot. Next up, we have book one. This is A Touch of Chaos. This is book one in the Hades and Persephone saga by Scarlett St. Clair. I would say the entire, technically it's two series. It's the Persephone and Hades saga and the Hades saga. I did a tandem read of them where you're reading the 4 books of Persephone and Hades in tandem with the 3 books of the Hades saga, which I just thought these were phenomenal. These have everything that I'm looking for in a romantasy book. We have Greek gods and goddesses. We have Persephone, who is a goddess who has, at the beginning of the book, she's kind of been denied her powers by her mother, Demeter. We have familial issues. We have her relationship with Hades. We have fantastic spice, fantastic plot, interesting world building. We have really high stakes as we go through the series. We have fantastic side characters. Hermes in these books. Hermes is such a star. I love Hermes from this series. This series really did have everything that I look for in a good romantasy series, and it is 7 books, and it is completed. So, yeah, this is my number 10 spot on the list. Next up, we have 3 books that I have decided to count as one, and that is all 3 books that are out in the Dark Forces universe by Cam Moranova. We have Leave Me Behind, which is a standalone. This follows Bradshaw and Nell as they navigate life in the Dark Forces. Nell, the entire rest of her squad has been unalived, so she is assigned to the squad Malum that has already been well established. They all know each other, and Bradshaw is on this squad, and it follows their relationship. This book has a fantastic blend of, both really, really dark themes, but also humor and spice, found family. I really, really loved this book. And then this is the first duet in the Dark Forces universe. And this is Your Knife, My Heart, and My Blade, Your Back. This one follows Emery and Cam, and it is set 10 years before the events of Leave Me Behind happen. But it follows Cam, who has been in the Dark Forces for a long time. He is kind of their lab rat. He's testing out all these experimental drugs, and he keeps unaliving his partners. And then we have Emery. She is picked up to be in the Dark Forces. She's on death row, and they take her and decide that they want her to be Cameron's new partner. So all 3 of these books had fantastic relationships, especially between the main characters. They had fantastic, really interesting and unique spice, balanced out with a lot of character development and plot. All 3 of these were so, so good, and these are my number 9 spot for 2025. Next up, in my number 8 spot, we have the Fae and Alchemy series. So we have Quicksilver and I have Brimstone up here. I just didn't feel like taking more books off the shelf. I want to do this spoiler free. Quicksilver follows Ceres, who lives in a city called Zilvarin. There is a lot of class disparity, a lot of like wealth disparity. She lives in a part of the city that is very poor and very looked down upon by people in the wealthier parts of the city. And she ends up falling through a portal, essentially. I don't want to spoil anything, so we're going to keep it vague, but she ends up in the Fey realm. She ends up in Evelia, which is the Fey winter court, and she meets our MMC Kingfisher because he is there when she falls into the portal. These two books are so freaking good. I have seen people say they did not like Brimstone as much. I read them back to back, and I thought that both books were phenomenal. They blew me away. These are also books that have fantastic side characters. There's a real sense of found family in these books. These are books, again, that have phenomenal spice balanced out with great, interesting, lore rich world building. I feel like a lot of people said about Brimstone in particular that they felt like the beginning was too slow and that nothing happened until the later parts of the book. I was like knee deep in the lore. I was like, please give me all of the Fae lore. I am not bothered that not a ton of action is happening because I just want to learn more about these Fae beings and this world. So these are my number 8 spot. I loved these books and I cannot wait for book 3. Next up, my number 7 book, The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley. I loved this book. I was not prepared for how like violently British it is. Like it is very British, but it is so good. This book follows Orienne and Osric. They are members of rival orders, which is basically like individual little like societies that you join to practice your magic and like hone your magic's like specialties. This is based off of a Dramini fanfic that was written by Brigitte Knightley. I believe this is the traditionally published version of Draco Malfoy and the mortifying ordeal of being in love. But yeah, this book was phenomenal. It was so funny. It had great world building, great characters, good character development. The relationship between these two, this is like a true slow burn. And I would say this is like rivals to reluctant allies to lovers, which personally I really love. I don't need them to be true enemies. Like the rivals that they are in this sense, it is so funny. And I loved that this, while it did tackle some deep and darker themes, I loved how there was like a very light, humorous undertone throughout the book. This is my number 7 spot because it was just so phenomenal. Next up, number 6, we have Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. This book, again, fantastic balance of interesting characters, fascinating plot. We have this fictional parasite that is like actually super fascinating. True dark academia with this one. We get classroom scenes. Setting is this moody Gothic university on this like strange island. Just I loved Devrick. I loved Lilia. The spice in here was phenomenal, but the plot and the world building definitely, you know, balanced it out and really held their own in this story. I really loved this one. I will also say the fact that the books from the Dark Forces universe and this book made it onto the list just speaks volumes to how good they are, because truly I have just been in my fantasy romantasy bag this year. That is like all I want to read, especially right now towards the end of the year. Like, do not give me contemporary romance, do not give me other genres. I just want to be reading fantasy and romantasy. So for those books that do not have like true fantasy elements in them, to be on this list just does speak volumes to how fantastic they are. This was a really good one, especially if you are a lover of like Gothic romance and vibes and atmosphere. Next up, in my number 5 spot, we have Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. I loved this one. I like I bought it when it first came out because everybody was raving about it, and I read it I think like a month or two after. It blew me away. We follow our main character, Odessa. She is not trained in really anything. Uh, Her sister has been prepping to become the queen and be married through this Shield of Sparrows doctrine to go to this foreign land and be the queen. They're also dealing with the Crux, which is a migration of monsters that happens every 30 years. The Crux are these giant bird monsters. They're really unique. They're very, very terrifying. And basically, Odessa ends up being selected instead of her sister to go become the queen. And there's just so much in this book. This book, like, you can think that you know what's going to happen. You do not know what's going to happen. I guarantee you it would be almost impossible for somebody to guess every single plot twist that happens in this book. But we have really, really interesting and unique mythical creatures, which is something that I really, really loved about this. I loved that Odessa wasn't your typical heroine. She really like didn't know anything about like fighting or like holding her own in that way. And there's a lot of like training that she goes through. And we have two MMCs in here, and one of them is the prince, and one of them is the guardian. And she does a lot of training with the guardian. We love the guardian, he is fascinating. But yeah, I don't want to say too much more because I don't want to spoil anything, but this is a phenomenal read, and it really is so unique. Like, this is one of those romantasy books that is so different from so many other romantasies that I've read, and that is one of the reasons why it made it to my number 5 spot. All right, number 4, we have the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. I read all 3 of the books that are currently out in this series this year. I thought they were phenomenal. I loved Xaden and Violet. I loved, similar with Shield of Sparrows, I loved that Violet was not your typical heroine, especially at the beginning in book 1. You know, she has to train. She's not very strong. She doesn't really know much about fighting, but she is really smart. And I thought that one of the central themes in these books is like knowledge is power, and I really do love that about these books. This is another one of these reads that does a fantastic balance between characters, world building, plot, spice, relationships. This also has the most fantastic side characters. Like, we have Riddick, we have Liam, you know, many, many more characters in this as well. But I love the dragons. I love that the dragons are not just plot devices. I love that they are characters in their own right. And these books also just, there is so much emotional devastation, and like, you feel every emotion while reading these books, like truly every emotion. Like, you are laughing, you are crying, you are hopeful, you are devastated. Like, these books really do have everything that I look for in a good romantasy book, and I just truly love these so much. I cannot wait for book 4. Also, if Rebecca Yarros kills off Riddick, I will lose my mind. Also, Broccoli better survive the series. I'm gonna lose it. Now we are into the top 3. So in my number 3 spot, we have the Jasad Heir and the Jasad Crown. These books make up the Scorched Throne duology by Sarah Hashem, and oh my god, these were so good. Book 1 follows Sylvia, who is undercover, essentially. She has been living under this identity as Sylvia because she is actually a Sia, who was the heir apparent to Jasad, which is a kingdom that at this point has been razed. There is nothing left. Kingdom has been annihilated. the people of Jasad, the Jasadi people, have been hunted down and they are unalived for their magic because magic is outlawed in this world. The world building, the true enemies to lovers, these books are phenomenal. These books have everything: the world building, the magic system, the characters. These, again, fantastic side characters, fantastic main characters. Aaron of Misal is our MMC, and he is the heir to the throne of Misal, which is the kingdom that is basically trying to eradicate magic and kill all of the Jasadi people. Aaron and Sylvia are true enemies. They are from these rival kingdoms. He is trying to kill her. They try to unalive each other multiple times throughout both books, but their story is just phenomenal. I don't want to say too much about book 2 because I don't want to spoil book 1, but both of these together, you're following Sylvia / Asia on her journey, watching her come into her power, say that vaguely, not spoil anything. This is inspired by Egyptian mythology, so there is really fascinating and interesting world building, unique and different mythical creatures and monsters. These books are truly so good. I cannot speak highly of these enough. I will also say these books are more like YA adjacent. There is a lot of yearning, and the love story is still phenomenal, but there is little to no spice in here. I think we have one kind of fade to black spicy scene in this book, in book 2, The Jasad Crown, but we really have no spice in book 1. And for me, I am somebody who, I don't need a book to have spice to be good, but I do prefer like a book with spice just because I feel like that is more my speed, that is more what I like to read, even if it is only at the end. I want there to be some payoff for all that yearning, but for me to rank these books so highly with them not having any spice at all, I feel like really does just show how fantastic the world building and the character development and the plot is in these books. They are really so fantastic. And these are emotionally damaging. These genuinely, especially book 2. Book 2 is going to rip your heart out of your fucking chest, but it is going to be so worth it. It is going to be so worth every tear you shed over these books. Next up is my number 2 spot, and this goes to the Bitten and Bound trilogy by Amy Penza. This is the omnibus special edition from Moonlight Bookbox, but wow, these again, phenomenal. Perfect balance of plot, world building, spice. The world building is so unique. The religions and the gods in here are fascinating. We have mortal vampires, and then we have humans, but then we also have different types of magic. Just, there are so many layers to this book, and there are so many unique and interesting parts of the world building and plot points. The 3 main characters, this follows Given, who is our FMC. She is a half vampire, half human. And then we have Varric and Laurent, which Varric is the vampire general and Laurent is the vampire king. This is an MMF relationship, and it is absolutely fantastic. The spice in here really does move the plot along and serves a purpose. There is an altar scene in here that quite literally altered my brain chemistry. Like, truly, these 3 books are so good. Book 1 is Given, book 2 is Stolen, and book 3 is Kept. But they all make up the Bitten and Bound trilogy. But yeah, the side characters in this are also fantastic. Just really cannot speak highly of this enough. The relationships are beautiful. The world building is beautiful. Definitely go check this one out because this is a phenomenal trilogy. And then last, in my number one spot of the year, we have Alchemized by Senlin Yu. This book, the most emotionally devastating thing I think I've ever read. This book has everything and more. Like the plot, the world building, the backstory, the way that it's done in the different timelines. And by the time you get to the end of part two, you're making all these connections and the puzzle pieces are falling perfectly into place in the most devastating but fascinating and gripping way. This book has everything. We follow Cain and Helena, which Helena is a member of the Order of the Eternal Flame, which is basically the good side of the war. And then we have Cain, who is on the side of the war with the necromancers, who, you know, obviously more outwardly evil. This book has so many layers. It does political and social commentary through the lens of this fascinating magic system. There is discussions about immigrants, there's discussions about, religious oppression, societal oppression, class. There is so much to discuss in here. I do have a full video review about this book if you want to check that out. I will try to link it down below in the description of this video in case anybody's interested in that. But this book was phenomenal. It literally will rip your heart out of your chest, but like in the best way. This book was so good. Helena is a healer. Cain is essentially the right hand man to the top necromancer. He is the High Reeve. He do be unaliving a lot of people. That just is how it goes. But yeah, this book is phenomenal. This will tug at every heartstring. But the magic system, the world building, there's fascinating side characters. You're seeing Helena with her moral struggles and trying to decide between doing what is right and also finally having something for herself. I could go on and on about this book. Definitely do check your triggers. This is a very dark story. This is not, I would say it's definitely not like a traditional romantasy in any sense. It's definitely more of a dark fantasy with a romance subplot, like a dark fantasy war story with a romance subplot specifically, because this is set in the backdrop of war. The different parts you're seeing during the war and you're seeing the aftermath of the war and what happens when, you know, the wrong side wins. Which, just again, this is such a unique book. I've never read anything else like it. I don't think I ever will read anything else like it. It is so unique. It is devastating, but it is so good. Anyway, that was my top 10 of 2025. I cannot wait to see what reads I get up to in 2026. Cannot wait to see how those lists compare. I feel like truly the top three, especially, the Scorched Throne duology, Bitten and Bound trilogy, and Alchemized, I really don't know how anything could compare to or top those three books, because I genuinely think that those were not only the best books that I read in 2025, but some of the best books, if not the best books I've ever read in my entire life. Like truly just they take the cake, just so phenomenal. And I really could go on and on. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you do want to see anything else about these specific books, definitely go check out my YouTube shorts, check out my TikTok, and do check out that long form video that I have about Alchemize, because I have talked more about most of these books in depth, not all of them, but most of them. So definitely go check those things out if you're interested. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope that I'll see you in my next video. Bye!